So I was surfing the interwebs the other day and I came across this interesting tweet. Initially I thought, well, I guess it's a great thing I've been shooting manual from the get-go. However, I realized there's one part of the shooting process where I've relied heavily on camera IQ, and that's with autofocus. And I thought about how manually focusing might be the way to go since I've recently picked up some vintage manual lenses for my videography. And so I spent as much time consciously choosing to focus manually when otherwise I let my Fuji Xt3 do all the work. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of Past Portraits. So now, even though we live in a world where we have quick AF eye autofocus and animal eye autofocus, the manual way will undoubtedly always have its place in videography and photography. As a matter of fact, in some cases, it's smarter to go manual than to rely on the camera IQ. And here are some examples when. Sorry to bother you. My name's Ken. I'm a student photographer. The biggest challenges I had occurred while trying to shoot street portraits in random moments. Due to being nervous and understanding that people's time is precious, I often will rush getting the shot so that I don't feel like I'm wasting their time. But after trying to shoot all around manual street portraits and moments, I realized that I'm actually wasting my own time if I don't trust myself and my process for the sake of anxiety and being nervous. Now, does this mean that I'll completely stop using autofocus? Most likely not. But my biggest takeaway from forcing myself to go all around manual is that if I'm going to progress as a creative person, it's imperative that I have faith in my own skill set and self-worth, and to stop feeling like I'm some kind of burden on people's days by asking them if I could take their portrait. And if you're in the same shoes as I am, I think you should too. So I've really got to give it to those who shoot primarily using manual focus, like those who shoot on film cameras and the like, because manual focusing really is like an art. It's not just a simple turning of the focusing barrel as you please. It requires precise movements that can only be achieved through time and practice. It can be very challenging, and that's exactly how I felt when I had the opportunity to shoot Audrey, who is a budding and rising artist, at her show at the Standard the other night. With her being a moving subject, it being a low-lit environment, as well as me having only vintage manual primes on hand, it made for a challenging and sometimes overwhelming setting due to having to get Audrey within focus. But it made me really appreciate the times that I managed to get her in focus, and it also managed to make me appreciate the shots that I did not, because I took way more shots of her being blurred out than I did her being in actual focus. I did not actually see that as a failure. I saw that as a growing opportunity. So it can definitely be overwhelming and challenging with all that controlling your hands. So here are some personal tips of mine on how to get better at manual focusing. Now, tip number one is the most obvious and redundant step, and that's to actually switch your focusing mode to manual and to commit to it. Cameras these days pack quite a punch when it comes to autofocusing, especially with native lenses, so it becomes easy to depend on the camera IQ. Number 2 is to start off with your favorite lens. The manual focusing experience varies with each lens that you use, because some lenses have long focusing poles and others have short focusing poles. By starting out with the lens that you use the most, you get acquainted with how sensitive the focusing barrel is, and you train your muscle memory to know just how much to rotate and turn to achieve your pinpoint focus. Also, if you have a lens with the max wide open aperture of, let's say, f1.4, start by stopping down to its sweet spot, preferably around f4 to f2.8. This will give you a greater chance of success when you're starting out, so you don't feel too defeated. And when you feel like you've made enough progress, you can open up your aperture and challenge yourself, because as you know, the wider the aperture, the thinner the plane of focus is. Tip number 3 is what I call target practice. Choose a location, choose 2 to 3 different targets within your frame, and then toggle your manual focusing in between these different targets. This could also be referred to as rack focusing, and especially helpful if you're a videographer, like myself. And if you're actually moving, try choosing one subject and attempt to keep it in focus as much as you can while you move closer and away from it. But of course, be mindful of where you are, because something like this could happen. Good job, Kenny. Good job. Last but not least, tip number 4 is to use what your mama camera gave you. Cameras these days come equipped with focusing aids like focused peaking, focus magnifiers, split image, and the like. So use them whenever you need them. They are there for a reason. Well, ladies and gents, that about does it for this episode. Always remember, where there was a will, there was a wayfarer. And whatever it is you choose to pursue, do it and practice as much as you can, because one day it might just come to you as easy as 1, 2, 3.